How you doing?
Hello, can you hear me?
It's
Yeah, how are
fine.
you doing, pal? Are you good?
Good, thank you very much. I'm good. I'm good. What's happening with you?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Good.
I'm very good, actually. I went to a cafe yesterday in Chorlton in Manchester. I went there for work, technically, but I went in for a coffee to meet one of the guys I'm working with, and
Yeah.
half of their menu is vegan.
Oh, nice.
I
Name the
looked down.
cafe. What's it called?
Are you fully vegan? And she went, no, the other side's not. And I went, that's still a pretty substantial vegan
Yeah.
menu. She went, yeah, yeah. It's called
Very impressive.
Benito's Coffee Lounge in Chorlton. I mean, I only had a
Right.
coffee, I haven't sampled the food, but it's
Sure.
still a good menu nonetheless.
Yeah. Very impressive. Earlier today, I was feeling a bit doom and gloom as I've been feeling for the last probably month or so, and then
Right.
just the world. And I after work I went for a run with Paul, and I feel a lot better. I think it's the endorphin slash adrenaline.
Yes.
Definitely
Well,
helps.
it is one of
So
your 5 ways to well-being.
yeah, so I think I'll have to do it a bit more often.
Getting outside, getting yourself active, and connecting with people. That's 3 of your 5.
Yes, yes, and I've been working from home all week because of the industrial action on the train, so that hasn't helped either.
No,
So yeah, good to see people IRL, as they say,
IRL.
in real life. That
Yeah.
means just
Yes,
FYI.
I knew that. Yeah, obviously, there's might be some listeners that
Some
didn't
old
know.
listeners who don't know what IRL means, not old
Yeah.
like us, obviously. Just I'm going to give a shout out to actually going to give a shout out to Abby in Bristol, who is our winner, the winner of our Saving Nemo tartar sauce competition.
Brilliant.
And Joe, that's on its way to Abby. So yes, well done, Abby, and thanks for taking part. Thanks for everyone who took part. It's very
Yeah, it's a
exciting.
good job. It's a good job that Abby did win because I put about 100 entries in and didn't
That
win.
would have been, yeah, that would have been a bit weird.
I didn't really. I'm only
Especially,
joking.
no, I mean, you don't even listen to the show, let alone interact with the Instagram posts.
Well, Marcus play.
Oh, what a laugh. What a laugh. Anyway, shall I tell you about today's guest?
Yeah, go on. Why not?
Our guest is Brighde from the World Vegan Travel Podcast,
Ooh,
um, and the World Vegan Travel Company. And she's going to tell us about her company and what they do. They basically organize trips for vegans. And
wow.
she's got a podcast, very interesting. She talks to people around the world who do travel blogs, etc., etc. So
Wow.
uh,
A bit like a travel agent, but
I
for
think so.
vegan.
That's my understanding of it. So yes, we will have to wait and see
Fair
and
enough.
find out more. Yes.
100%.
Okay. So it's very exciting.
Weather's very autumnal, which is nice. Raining,
Yes.
raining a bit more, and then a bit more rain. And in all fairness, that's what it should do in the autumn. So I'm quite happy with that.
Yes. Yeah, can't really argue with that, can you?
Yeah, I don't know
Um,
what the rest of the world's doing. I'm not there. But I
no.
hope they're all okay and they're not too hot.
But we did just have the hottest September in the world ever,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is not great.
Well done,
But
world. You're doing a great job.
yeah, it's just the humans that are fucking it up. So there we go.
Sooner we're off
Good.
this planet, the better. Hashtag the sooner we're off this planet, the better.
Is that hashtag? We starting that now, are we? The sooner we're
Yeah,
gone,
why
the
not? It's
better.
it. Like, the thing is, I can't do hashtags because they're always really long. It's like you have to decipher the entire sentence. There's about
Mm.
20 words in one sentence. But, I know what IRL means, so happy days.
Yeah, well done. Good work. Okay, so if you want to get in touch, then give us a shout and come and find us on predominantly Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. And yeah, send us a message. Tell us how much you love us, and that will make us very happy.
Yeah.
And
Or you can email us
go on.
at howiveganpodcast@gmail.com
Yes,
and ask us any questions. You can ask to come on and be a guest.
you
I
can.
nearly went into song then from
Oh,
Beauty and the Beast and then decided against it. So that's not happening.
oh yeah. Well done for restraining yourself.
Restraint.
You pronounced my name correctly. Oh my gosh, that's
I-
really unusual.
I saw it written down and I thought, So I listened to a couple of episodes of your podcast just to make sure I'd got it right.
Oh
Just to
wow!
make
Oh
sure.
my gosh, that is due diligence
I
right
assumed you'd
there.
asked. I assumed you'd asked. I wasn't going to pick you up on it, but I thought, well, you've got it right, so happy days. Well done.
It's all about the research and commiserations on the loss of Squeaky as well. That was very sad to hear. I could hear the emotion in your voice as you were talking about it in that episode this week.
Yes.
Very sad. Very sad.
Yes. Thank you. It's been a tough time.
Yeah. Squeaky was the pet cat, whereas not a child or anything.
Yeah.
That would be a weird name for a child.
It kind of would. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us. This is something that we've spent a while trying to get arranged.
Oh,
so
that's okay. These things take time.
They do. So why don't we start off with why don't you tell us about World Vegan Travel and what the background is to your business?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story, in my opinion, because Seb and I had been vegan for many years when we originally started to think about World Vegan Travel, and I'd actually been inspired to go vegan by vegan author and educator Colleen Patrick Goodrow. Do you happen to know who she is? She uses Joyful Vegan as well, anyway, she's been doing vegan educating for a really long time, and I stumbled upon her podcast in 2009. So, right at the beginning of when, podcasting was getting popular. I was just vegetarian at that time, but very, very quickly, I saw that there were some really great reasons to go vegan, and learned the truth about the dairy and egg industries, like so many people just didn't put two and two together. And I really enjoyed Colleen's work. Like, it just really resonated with me on quite a deep level. And I listened to her podcast like nonstop, because not only did she do like the why vegan, but she also did the how vegan as well. And there weren't as many resources back then as there are now. So it was really special. Anyway, we became friends over time, and me and my partner Seb and Colleen and her partner David, we actually started traveling together a lot, because neither couple has kids, so we wanted to travel, and we did some really cool travels together. So before I was vegan, like a long time before I was vegan, I did have a background in the travel industry. I was a tour leader for Intrepid Travel, which is a small group adventure company, and I did that for 5 years. And I actually met Seb, who was also a tour leader, and he also has a background in TV production services, which is like logistics and things like that. Anyway, so over a glass of wine with Colleen and David, Seb said, why don't we put a trip together for your followers to Thailand, and see if they want to come, and let's just see how it works. And Seb and I were living in Thailand at that time, and she very kindly said yes. And Seb put together a trip. She marketed it to her audience, and it sold out. So that really was the
Well,
start of it. And we still do lots of trips every year with Colleen, like 3 or 4 trips a year with Colleen, but we also do our own trips, and we also collaborate with lots of other people in the vegan space as well. We've got some exciting collaborations coming up.
it's amazing.
So, without asking you to read out a list, but what sort of locations or destinations have you got on your books?
Yeah. So they all sound very random and not hugely connected. So we have trips in France, Italy, Rwanda, Botswana, South Africa, Thailand, Vietnam. I think that's it. Yeah, and we've got obviously Japan. We're running our first Japan trips in March next year.
Wow,
That's incredible.
Okay, so with the Japan trip, then, as an example, how do you prepare for a tour like that?
Yeah, great question. So sometimes with our trips, we'll work with a locally based travel company, and they create that, we help them curate a trip based on our needs. But in the case of Japan, we really have done it all ourselves from scratch. So obviously it requires a ton of research, asking a ton of questions, not just going into happy cow, like digging deep into everything. And luckily Seb has a real talent for that. And he's also very good at putting together itineraries. So, it takes a long time. And, often to a less extent, a regular traveler that was traveling independently would have to do that kind of research as well, maybe not to such a crazy degree. And of course, we also do go there and we vet everything, and we make sure that everyone understands what vegan is, and we don't usually just go by the happy cow reviews. We will either go ourselves or we'll send someone that we trust to do like a full report. So that's generally how we do it, and our travelers, I think, expect that, because our trips are on the higher cost side. So for that reason, they should have higher expectations, because the trip is expensive, in which case we have to really do our due diligence in order to meet those expectations, or smash them, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah. And you're based in Canada. So is this something that is for Canadians, or it's for anyone to join and then just meet you at the destination?
Yeah, sure. So anyone can join. The trip is conducted in English. So, you obviously have to speak okay English to understand everything. But 94% of our travelers are from the United States, I think mainly because, a number of reasons, but one of them is like Colleen's audience is mainly the United States. And, as I'm sure Americans don't get a lot of time off, and they work really hard, so they're willing to sort of splurge a little bit for something special, because this might be their only big vacation of the year, or every 2 years or something like that. We do have some travelers from other places as well. Sure.
Yeah, they are quite hard done by, aren't they? But that's what you get for living in a third world country, I suppose. So they're not lucky like we are in the UK and Canada. So how did the Rwanda and did you say Botswana, how did they come about? Because when the other sort of countries that you listed, I can imagine, yes, you would find quite a lot of vegan venues, restaurants and that sort of thing. But the other two, perhaps not that well, certainly not here in the UK, not known for their veganism.
Exactly. We never thought that we would do a trip to Rwanda. So Colleen's, David, Seb and I had done our own trip to Rwanda, something like in about, 2016 or something like that. And if you don't know, Rwanda is very famous for the mountain gorillas, and being able to see the mountain gorillas in the wild. It's very well managed. And also chimpanzees. It's one of the only locations where you can see chimpanzees. That's quite hard to, physically hard to do, but it's doable. And we went to Rwanda, and we were all blown away by, well, not only being able to see these incredible animals in their natural habitat, but just how interesting Rwanda was as a country, how beautiful it was. Like it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a landlocked country. It's very hilly. It's the land of 1,000 hills. And it just, you know, blew our minds. You know, we didn't know that much about it. So, you know, that I guess is too surprising. But interestingly, when we ran our first Thailand trip, and, you know, we were all sort of so excited because, wow, that people actually wanted to come on these trips with us and they really liked it. And of course, over that time, there was a lot of conversation, and Colleen had posted a lot about Rwanda on her social media, and about 10 of those people said, well, if you go to Rwanda, we will come with you. And we thought, really? So we went with that data point, and we put together a trip, because it's not cheap to go to Rwanda. Just the gorilla permits are $1,500. And yeah. And we put the trip out there, staying at some very, very nice hotels. And the first trip sold out in less than 48 hours, which just blew our minds. So we're just at the moment getting bums on seats for our 4th departure in November 2024.
Wow, that's incredible. And Gorilla's predominantly vegan as well, so that's a good thing for a vegan travel company to
absolutely. They're incredibly strong, they're huge.
No protein deficiency there, is there?
No protein deficiency there. And I think they might eat a tiny bit of small amount of insects, but it's inadvertently, I think. Okay. I don't think they necessarily seek them out. Maybe they do, but yeah. But we also go and see like the Dian Fossey Ellen DeGeneres campus. We have talks by the gorilla doctors. They actually have gorilla doctors that will go out into the wild and humans, yes.
Not doctors who are gorillas. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to say that. Put in a little white coat and stuff.
That would be, yes. So yeah, they have gorilla doctors, and we have lectures by them. So we really hope to dig deep. And of course, you know, the interesting a recent history of Rwanda with the genocide, and there's a lot of things that I think we can learn from Rwanda in its history and how they do things today in many ways. It's a fascinating place.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's tremendous. And when you so the sort of hotels that you stay in, are they specifically vegan hotels, or just hotels that agree to put on a vegan? Because some of the places that I've visited, it can be very hit and miss. I mean, I've never been to Africa, for example. You know, can't compare Rwanda or anywhere like that, but certainly around Europe, it's very hit and miss.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we often run trips in places that are just not very vegan friendly, because, you know, it's really hard to go there. And, you know, as I've traveled a lot and I've never actually gone hungry, but I've certainly, you know, missed out on some fun culinary experiences that I might like to have had, especially if I paid the same amount of money as a non-vegan. And, you know, I want to try the local cuisine and experience that made vegan as well. So yeah, we don't stay in solely vegan hotels. We do stay in some in Italy, but certainly not in Rwanda. And yeah, there is quite the process in making sure that the food is good quality and varied and tasty and delicious. And it often means that, you know, chefs will have to learn a few new ways of doing things, get exposed to some new products that they might not necessarily have used before. And, you know, as I mentioned, our travelers should have high expectations. So, you know, I don't just sort of settle for like a tomato-based spaghetti. It's got to be good.
Yeah. So that's great though, because that's
less than tomato and cucumber.
Right.
That's great, because that's pushing the vegan message to the chefs as well, isn't it?
It really is. It's really fun to do that. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's a little bit risky when you do it for the first time. You like on a new trip, for example, you hope that that it will all work out. You know, you see their menus ahead of time, but generally speaking, they do an amazing job.
That's really good.
Fantastic. That's exciting. So give us the website. I'll put it in the show notes, but what's the website that people can go to book their next trip?
Sure, it's worldvegantravel.com, worldvegantravel.com.
That's simple. Okie dokie. Awesome. Thank you. And then, so the podcast, World Vegan Travel Podcast, obviously came on the back of the company. Tell us a bit about the pod.
Yeah, of course. So I started uploading episodes in 2019, and about a year and a half ago now, I was like, right, I'm going to fully commit to this. I'm going to do weekly episodes, and I have astonishingly managed to do that.
Really?
And yes,
every week.
every
Well
week.
done.
Oh my gosh. So I get some help, a little bit of help. So that is very important. Otherwise, I probably would have burnt out by now. But I really wanted to have a podcast because I love the podcast medium. Like I mentioned, I've been listening to podcasts since 2009. It's a great way to get information. And, you know, from a marketing perspective, it's kind of a fun thing to have. You know, it means I'm uploading content onto my site. So anyone that knows SEO knows a little bit about how that's a good thing. And I just really enjoy talking to people and talking about vegan travel. So I chat with like vegan travel providers or companies that are doing something, even non-vegan companies that are doing something special for vegans, or even just vegans who have something to say about maybe the destination that they're living in. So for example, where are you guys speaking to me from?
I'm in Manchester, North England.
Manchester?
Yep, I'm in the Midlands.
Right.
Yeah.
So for example, you know, I would love to have an episode from Wes on like 10 reasons to visit Manchester or something like that. And as somebody who lives there, then that would be a really, really fun episode, and sharing their favorite restaurants, tips, sites, secrets, and things like that. So that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, I like that. Cool. That would be a good one actually, Wes, wouldn't it? Manchester.
Yeah, I need to do some research.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll have to arrange a visit and just go around eating all day.
Sounds like a plan.
Tough job.
Fantastic. I listened to the episode this week with was it Tara from who lives in Lisbon?
Yes.
So that was really interesting. I've never been to Lisbon, but it sounded great. And not just from a vegan point of view, but just things to do. It was I found that really interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like to think of the podcast as being like a blog post, or a travel guide in audio form.
All right, so we've heard about the travel company and the podcast. How about you? What's your vegan story?
Yeah, sure. Well, I kind of alluded to it already when I mentioned that Patrick Gaudreau's podcast, which was called at that time Vegetarian Food for Thought, even though it was vegan, and now it's called Food for Thought. And as I mentioned, it was very informative and kind of mind-blowing. And very quickly, I knew that I wanted to integrate this into my life. I didn't know a single vegan. I was living in Vietnam at the time. And you know, one of the things that I thought would be the most difficult, like about going vegan, and I think you both might laugh when I say this, is putting non-dairy milk in my tea. That was the thing that I thought would be impossible. And astonishingly, well, at the time, but now not surprisingly, it only took about 2 days to get used to it. And of course, you know, I haven't looked back. I took to vegan cooking with gusto. I think it's fair to say, like, I was super, super enthusiastic about cooking things. You know, I'd get home from a hard day at work and then just want to cook like a 3-course dinner and things like that, and just bought so many cookbooks. Every night was a different meal. And my partner, Seb, who wasn't even vegetarian, he was still a meat eater at that point. I should say he's very, very fussy with food. I started cooking and he started liking it. And I was surprised about that. Anyway, about 6 months later, he suddenly announced to me, "Do you realize that I've been vegan for 3 weeks?" And I was very surprised. And that was the start of him going vegan. So, you know, I was very grateful that he was open to this information as well. And I know not all couples have both are both vegan, and I'm very grateful that he decided to make that change, because he was always very sensitive to animals when he was a child, and yeah, it was really nice. So yeah, I took to cooking with gusto, and you know, I started talking a lot about veganism with people. Sometimes it was well received, sometimes it wasn't so well received. I started like doing 30-day vegan challenges. I was working in international schools at that time. I started doing those challenges at my workplace for people that are interested in joining. That was fun. And I also did some activism when I was in Thailand as well, of sort of street activism and things like that. And, you know, since I moved to Canada in 2020 at the start of the pandemic, I haven't done so much of that kind of stuff for a number of reasons. But you know, I at the moment, I'm quite sort of happy with the chef education in hotels and restaurants and things like that. I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. You mentioned that you were vegetarian already. What's the story behind that bit?
Yeah. So I started foraying into vegetarianism when I was like 7 years old, which is kind of young, I guess. And I was born and raised in the UK, in Sussex, and you would of course know that in the UK, whenever you go for walks on public footpaths, you're going through private land most of the time. And we went to feed the ducks at a local pond on a public footpath in private property, and you know, had a lot of fun doing that. And then as we walked back home, gunshots rang out, and I realized that there was some people that were just hunting the ducks that I'd probably just been feeding, which was absolutely crushing to a little 7-year-old. And I guess I kind of started making some connections there, and I decided that I wanted to become vegetarian. And astonishingly, my parents were really supportive of that. I think, you know, I came out of vegetarianism like at a year, but I went full on vegetarian when I was 13, and I never really looked back after that. But yeah, it was very, very sad to see those poor little ducks.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see it, but hear it, I should say.
Yeah. That is a rude awakening into the ways of the world, isn't it? Good grief.
Yes.
So so since you went vegan, then what do you think's been the hardest thing that you've had to face?
Yeah. I would say that generally speaking, I didn't have too much of a challenge transitioning, partly because, you know, I really liked cooking. It really wasn't that difficult for me. You know, I didn't really mind the extra effort that you have to go to. You know, sometimes it's a little bit irritating. But, you know, apart from like any sort of feelings of dread or anger or anything like that, I was lucky I didn't go through that kind of thing. I mean, there were a few sort of awkward social situations, which I've definitely got better at over time, I would say. It was really hard. I remember when I went vegan and talking to my parents about it, and I guess it was difficult for me, particularly with my dad, because my dad has always been very social justice oriented, and really sort of, you know, he was always very sort of left-wing in his leanings and beliefs and all of this kind of stuff. And whilst he was prepared to acknowledge that what I was saying was true, he wasn't prepared to make any changes. And I think that was really difficult at that time for me. And, you know, the truth is, over time, he has become vegetarian, and he did dabble in veganism. He gave it a bit of a try. And, you know, I've since become at peace with, you know, the fact that not everybody is going to change on my timetable, and instead, you know, invest my efforts in people who, and organizations and places that are willing to make some changes, and you know, try to keep those sort of family relationships okay, but they're always very respectful and understanding and supportive of my vegan choices. So yeah, it's pretty good.
That is always a challenge, isn't it? Especially with family, because it's not a relationship that you can, you know, with friends, if you were arguing a lot, you might just say, oh, let's just take some time and we'll not be in touch. But family, you can't really do that with your family, can you? It's very difficult. Very difficult. So we've talked about family. What about friends? What did your friends think about it when you went vegan?
Yeah, they were really quite okay with it, I think. I think generally speaking, because I moved so much, like basically 6 months after I went vegan, I moved to Thailand, and then I moved to Indonesia a couple of years after that, and then I moved back to Thailand. And I've traveled a lot in my adult life and lived in lots of places. I know that must sound a little funny, but basically that's what I've done. And when I moved to new schools, I definitely was known as the vegan one, for sure. And I mentioned that I did these 30-day vegan challenges, which did result on some very long-term vegans being established through that. So, you know, of course, I gravitated to them as friends. And until I moved to Canada, things have been a little bit different here, I would say. But living in Asia and moving to different schools, and the fact that, you know, my colleagues were generally very open-minded about things, and I would seek out the vegan community as well. For example, I was I managed the Bangkok vegan meetups for about 6 years, and, you know, made lots of friends that way. So, you know, I've got friends from before I was vegan, of course, and I have non-vegan friends, but you know, most of my circle now are vegan people for sure.
Amazing. So you mentioned it's a bit different in Canada. Is that in a good way or a bad way?
Well, definitely the vegan scene is huge in Canada for sure, and there's amazing activism going on, and tons and tons of restaurants. I live in Squamish, which is just about an hour north of Vancouver, and Vancouver is very well known for its incredible vegan scene and activism scene, actually. I think when I moved to Canada, it was right at the start of the pandemic, and you know, I don't think anyone really wanted to make a lot of new friends at that time, and I put myself out there a little bit, and, you know, I had a little bit of success, I would say, and but, you know, if I'm entirely transparent, it was a difficult time during the pandemic because, you know, I just quit my job to work on Well Vegan Travel full time, so you could imagine that was a bit stressful.
Oh no. Oh my God.
And, you know, as the anxieties about money and future, and I was trying to get permanent residency in Canada and all of these things, it was a difficult time to sort of, you know, go out there and make friends. But, you know, I'm happy to say now that I have a couple of good friends in Canada, and I see them when I go to Vancouver. But otherwise, I'm a bit of a stay at home and work on the business person these days.
Yeah, that's fine.
So did you think that anything like changed for you, like physically or mentally? So
yeah, that's a great question. When I initially went vegan, I definitely lost some weight. I think this can happen quite a lot when you're eating lower calorie foods, and definitely I was doing a lot of that. But I will say, as you know, as more processed foods became available, and lots of decadent things, definitely, you know, I put on a bit of weight. That's okay. But so in terms of numbers and things like that, I mean, I never really did a lot of blood work before I was vegan. But interestingly, and, you know, this is maybe interesting for your audience, I always was on the higher end of normal for like cholesterol levels. And
Oh,
unfortunately, I was just diagnosed as having high cholesterol, which I'm really upset about.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm being vegan and I'm trying to be healthy, but it's genetic. So, you know, right now I don't think I need to make a huge amount of changes in my lifestyle, but you know, it's something that I need to be aware about. But, you know, I think it's important for people to know that just because you're vegan doesn't mean you're always going to have amazing numbers on your blood work. So, you know, I was so bummed out about it. And and
We're all
mentally,
superheroes, aren't we? We all need to be superheroes.
I
and we can't be.
I know. It was a real wake-up call when the doctor told me that. Oh my gosh. And mentally, yeah, I would say, generally speaking, it's been very liberating and freeing in many ways, particularly early in my vegan journey. First of all, I felt I had a bit of a life's purpose, which, you know, maybe I didn't feel that passionate about things before in my life. This was certainly, the thing was like, oh my gosh, I could just work and read and talk and do this all the time. And no, which is one reason why it's nice to have a business that's sort of connected with that. And you know, there was a feeling of lightness and things like that. And, you know, it's been 15 years now. So obviously I've had different experiences, different things going on in that time, but generally speaking, it was the best decision that I ever made.
Fantastic. So here's a key bingo question for you. Where do you get your protein and other nutrients?
Well, I eat a varied diet with lots of legumes and nuts and seeds and vegetables and fruits and all of these things. A strategy that I've been trying to really follow recently, because Seb and I do travel so much, and as I mentioned, the food that we eat can be quite decadent. So you know, when I'm traveling with our groups, I, you know, obviously eat what our restaurants have provided for us. But then when I'm not on trips and I'm at home, I will try to eat as nutrient dense as I possibly can, and you know, as lower calories, because, you know, otherwise the weight would creep up a little bit, and that's something that I'm trying to manage. So yeah, that's basically how I eat, and I haven't had any issues. I think when I got that blood work done, he did say my vitamin D levels were a little bit lower. That could be dietary related, but it also could be with the fact that I live in a very cloudy place. So it's
not enough sunshine.
Very much like an English kind of climate.
Oh,
so
dear.
Yeah.
You have my sympathies.
The Pacific Northwest, yeah. So, you know, I do supplement for a few things as well. That's something that I'm taking more seriously now. I'm getting a little older.
So what's the best thing about being vegan?
Gosh, there's so many things, but the food is amazing. I love the food. I eat so many different plants now that I'm vegan than before I was vegan. Honestly, like when I look at how varied my diet was compared with, you know, in the 15 years since I've been vegan, I just eat so many foods, and I get such a kick out of, you know, cool new vegan products or new ingredients or restaurants that you know, have got a particularly exciting option. My partner Seb is exactly the same, and you know, he will travel for vegan food when we're on our own personal travels. We will go out of our way to have a fun vegan experience, so a food experience. So yeah, it's kind of like an adventure, like a scavenger hunt. It's fun.
Oh, I love that.
I was going to say, it sounds like a right adventure.
Yeah. God, that sounds awesome. Now, Brighde, because we don't pay for the full version of Zoom,
yes, of course.
we're going to have a little break in about 5 minutes, if that's all right.
Yes, I understand. No problem.
Just for a few minutes, and then we'll come back in, if that's all right.
Yeah. Would I join by the same link?
Yes. Okay. We'll do the same link.
Okay.
So yeah, should we break here? Would that be all right? And then we'll come back?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
There's nothing better than a hunk of prime Labrador steak, wonderfully marbled. And that is almost entirely dependent on how it's produced. Elwood's organic dog meat has complete control of this entire journey. So I'm here at Elwood's farm to find out a little more about it.
Welcome to Elwood Farms.
Thank you very much, Elwood.
I hear you do a bit of barbecuing.
I do a little bit of barbecuing every now and then, yes. From a chef's point of view, consistency is key for everything.
It doesn't matter if it's a Rottweiler ribeye, a Pyrenees mince, or a Lab sirloin.
You can always tell when the dog comes from a place where it was well reared. And every step has to be right, doesn't it? Oh, you should see these guys. So, from an Elwood's point of view, there's complete traceability.
Absolutely, unrivaled traceability, so it's fine.
Every single piece of dog meat.
Yeah, from pub to farmer's market.
Everything the dog's been fed.
Everything about it.
For each dog.
Yeah, only Marks and Spencer's and Whole Foods do this.
Where else can people order from?
From elwooddogmeat.com. That's ELWOOD dogmeat.com.
For top quality meat from dogs for people, meat that's local, sustainable, and humanely harvested, there's only Elwood's organic dog meat. They seem pretty friendly, don't they? They're more responsive to me than my kids, to be honest.
So, you obviously in the north. No, I was going to say northwest of Canada. You're not in the northwest of Canada, are you? Strictly, how far up are you? Not near Alaska. That's too far up,
No, we are
Just
only
a bit up
about
from
like what my house is about 2 hours north of the US-Canada border. So we're officially in like the Pacific Northwest. Vancouver is in like the Pacific Northwest, refers to usually like the northwest of the United States, but we're also kind of that same area. But of course, we're the southwest in Canada.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, on your pod, you often ask your guests about, visas and ability of, if people wanted to move to a particular country. So, how did that work for you as a Brit moving to? Well, I mean, mainly Canada as you're there now, but also, like you mentioned, you were in Thailand for quite a while and places like that.
Yeah. I've really been fairly, I can't even think of the word right now. Itchy feet. Yes, I've had itchy feet like all my life. So I've been lucky enough to have these opportunities to go and live in other countries. And the way I've been able to do that has been different. So when I was mainly living in Southeast Asia, I mentioned that I was tour leading in Thailand. So I got a job with Intrepid Travel. That was basically how I was able to do that. And that was an amazing experience. And then I also did that in France and in Morocco as well. So again, for work. And then I also later on got into the international education scene as well. So that meant I'm a teacher. That's what I did my tertiary education in. And of course, I was employed by schools. So they were able to give me visas to work. And when I moved to Canada, it was a slightly different situation. I applied as being a common law partner, a spouse of a Canadian citizen. And and the reason why we wanted to move to Canada at that point was we really dug deep about where we wanted to go next. I couldn't stay in Thailand anymore because I didn't have a visa, because I was no longer working for my school. I could have stayed, and that was one of the options that we were considering. And we decided on Canada for a few reasons. Firstly, it's pretty easy to do business in Canada compared to France, which was another place that we were thinking about, and Thailand as well. There are a lot of restrictions on non-Thais having travel companies. And and Seb's parents live in this area as well, and actually we live in the same building as my partner's parents, which is actually really, really nice. people often ask, how's that go? But I'm happy to report that it's very nice indeed. And Canada is a really nice place to be after many years in tropical countries. We have 4 seasons, we've got mountains, we've got the water, we've got everything. And I'm always very interested when I speak to our guests about, if they've moved to a place. I'm always very curious because, I don't think Canada is going to be a forever home for us. I think that once our cat Pinky is no longer with us, she's already quite old, we'll start exploring spending time in other places around the world as well. Once I've got my Canadian citizenship, and that's a process. But so I'm always so curious to know how people have ended up where they are, and how can they do it like legally and everything.
Because when obviously we moved from Northampton to where we are now near Manchester, and
that's not quite the same as going from Thailand to Canada.
No, it's not. I know that. I'm fully aware.
But it's still a big move.
There is quite a language difference.
But I remember reading somewhere about there's a reason we got feet. It's because we should be traveling places. We're designed to go places. We did that hundreds, thousands of years ago. We used to migrate to different places, and I'm all over that. If you want to gonna move, just do it.
It's fun. I'm really grateful for the experiences that I've had living in different places, and it really has shaped how I see and interact with the world, I think. So it's been very nice.
Something I've been looking into recently, but having lost our EU access, it's a lot harder to up sticks than it was a few years ago, unfortunately. But there we are.
I have British citizenship, so I personally was very disappointed when that happened, but I'm happy to tell you that it doesn't mean it's impossible. There are still ways to do it, and not even super hard, just a little bit, not as straightforward as it used to be. But I agree. Bit of a bummer in my perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what's your favorite vegan product at the moment? You mentioned there's been a lot in Canada recently, a lot of new stuff brought out. What's
I'm just trying to think of something that your other listeners would know about or be able to try. So
we've even had the humble chickpea.
Chickpeas, amazing.
It doesn't even have to be food.
Very good point.
Okay, well, I will say that I'm a big fan of the Just Egg products. I don't know whether you could get them in the UK yet, or you probably have something similar by now, but the Just Egg folded egg and the liquid egg I really, really like. And it's really interesting because this product has really, it's inspired a lot of other companies to do something similar. So, for example, at the moment, I'm working on a Thailand trip that will be going on in a couple of weeks. And I asked one of my friends there, is there any Just Egg equivalent that's a Thai product? And she's like, yep, there is. And I'm like, brilliant. So we'll be able to have vegan egg fried rice and these kinds of things for our travelers. And it's really, really fun. So that's a product that I'm pretty excited about.
What's folded egg? Is that a silly question?
No, it's not a silly question. I think it's only something that is used a lot in North America. So the egg McMuffin thing, I think in McDonald's you get them. Well, that's quite a popular thing in North America, to have some sort of English muffin, as they call it, and some sort of sausage patty with some sort of egg in there. And the Just Egg folded egg is basically like an omelette that has been folded so that you can very conveniently put it in your breakfast sandwich.
Fantastic. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, you
That
can just
sounds
pop it
good.
in the toaster or put it in the air fryer or fry it up or something. It's like super quick and easy.
Love it. I'm going to look out for that. Hopefully
I've not even
they're
tried
over
any
here.
egg replacements yet. I've not tried anything like that.
We tried one a couple of years ago, and it was supposed to be like, yeah, you can just whip it up and it's like scrambled egg, but it was just like stop. It was horrible.
Oh dear.
And it didn't even taste, you know, some things have the consistency and some things have the taste. It had neither.
Right.
It didn't taste like egg, and it didn't look like egg. So it was just like, what the hell is this stuff?
Yeah, seek out the
Not
Just Egg
recommended.
if you can. Like, it might not be in the supermarkets in the UK, but maybe in a specialty store. It's a frozen product, so I guess that makes it less available. But it's a fun product, and Europe has been doing so many amazing products recently as well. We go to Europe frequently for our trips, and it's incredible just what is out there these days, and amazing cheeses. Like, our travelers on our recent French countryside trip were just blown away by the incredible vegan French cheeses that are available in France now. It's super fun.
Amazing.
That's amazing. So what advice would you give to someone that came to you and wanted to go vegan?
I would probably ask questions before giving any advice. Personally, I think it would be really interesting to sort of ask them, you know, like, how do they eat now, and what are their motivations, and you know, what's your lifestyle currently looking like? How do you cook at the moment? Like, what are your friends like? I'd really sort of try and dig deep a little bit, and maybe get a sense of to whether they would want to, you know, go vegan 100% overnight, or whether they might like to do it a little bit more slowly. Quite a while ago now, it's still available on Amazon, but you know, no one's buying it anymore. But I had like this little book on Amazon called 12 Months Till Vegan, and it was very much like a sort of a guide to going vegan over 12 months, you know, and doing trying different things every month. And it was a fun little project, and you know, I think maybe someone could take that idea and run with it a little bit, and do something with it, because I think there is something to be said for people that do like challenges, but maybe they want to do things a little bit more slowly. I really, another thing that I haven't looked at it for a long time, but another program that I really recommend to people is the Challenge 22 program. Are either of you familiar with that?
I've heard of it. I've not really looked into it though, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's a little bit like Veganuary. I think it's Israeli owned, and the reason why I know about it is I was a mentor on the program for several cycles, and basically it's like a 1 month vegan challenge, and it's all done through a Facebook group. You know, I haven't done this for several years now, and Facebook is sort of fallen out of favor, so maybe they do it a different way. I'm not quite sure. But something that made it rather special was the fact that on these Facebook groups there were mentors, you know, experienced vegans that were, you know, supportive and good communicators that would really try to support the mentees that were going through this process. So, you know, and really encourage them to participate in the community and offer really supportive advice, and, you know, just be cheerleaders for them and things like that. So I would recommend a program like that if you need a little bit of support. And they even assigned mentees like a mentor to have like personal calls and conversations with as well to help them. And I was really amazed by just how incredible that program was in terms of the level of support, the fact that it was all free and super well organized. And yeah, that would be a great program that I'd recommend too.
That was Challenge 22.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to look into some more because I've heard that. I've seen that written a couple of times, but I've never, like I said, I never looked into it. So
yeah, it might be a bit different these days, but certainly 4 years ago, it was it was on Facebook and it had that level of support. It still exists, that I know for sure. Yeah.
Okie dokie. Cool. All right. So you mentioned Colleen Patrick Goudreau, but who's your vegan inspiration?
That's a great question. Definitely she was my inspiration to go vegan. And of course, you know, she's an amazing communicator and she's got lots of things to say about topics that maybe we don't always think about. So of course I do appreciate her. I also really appreciate like that they're not super famous people, really. They're just friends that I had in Thailand before I left Thailand to come here. I'm very excited. I'm going to be able to catch up with some of them when I'm there in a few weeks. And we just had this really lovely vegan community together. And we did some amazing, crazy, not dangerous, but certainly risky things in the name of activism when we were in Thailand. And they were just really inspiring, and a couple of them, you know, being people of color and things like that, they really opened my eyes to a lot of issues, you know, that are problematic in the vegan movement and just life generally everywhere in society. And you know, through those conversations, I learned a lot, I think, and they continue to have an impression on me now. So yeah, shout out to my amazing Thai vegan friends in Thailand, many of them Thai, some of them not Thai, and they were just great. But they're still great.
You've piqued my interest now. What were the not very safe things that you did?
Yes,
in your
yes.
activism?
What goes on tour stays on tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I can talk about it now. So
as the statute of limitations passed now, you're fine.
Yes. Well, hopefully I won't be flagged when I enter Thailand. But we were doing a lot of street activism there, which is, you know, Anonymous for the Voiceless at that time. I don't particularly appreciate Anonymous for the Voiceless these days, but at the time, you know, it was very cool and I really enjoyed what we were doing. And we were basically showing footage in the streets and talking with people. So that was pretty low key, but you know, you were supposed to have like a permit to do that, and we didn't often have that. And you know, we were, you know, sort of going a little bit under the radar there. So that, you know, that wasn't that big a deal. Potentially, I guess we could have got in trouble, but I'm sure it wouldn't have been that serious. But there were a couple of times we started doing a lot of like bearing witness in slaughterhouses, and there was a few times that we did it just outside slaughterhouses in the way that I'm sure you and your listeners have seen, you know, trying if it's possible to give some water and to document it. And of course that was extremely upsetting. And there were one time where, because there's different levels of slaughterhouses in Thailand, in that there'll be like the big sort of the official one, which the big ones where, you know, probably the products, the dead animals that come outside of those slaughterhouses are sent to the UK, because just so happens the UK happens to import a lot of Thai chicken, and of course the security around those kinds of places are very, very high. There's no way that you would ever get in. But there are also some sort of smaller slaughterhouses as well, which I guess produce food, pork, whatever, for like markets and things like that. And there were times where we were actually able to go inside and to document the whole process. And they didn't have security, so we just walked in and we were able to see. And of course, I'm sure the people that worked there, and you know, it turns out that they are just like in our countries, they are people that don't have a lot of other choice to do that kind of work. They are immigrants from neighboring countries like Burma and Laos, places where they don't have many opportunities in their own country. So they're doing this work. And we saw some things there that was incredibly traumatic and upsetting, and things that I never even knew about. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure these things are all widely happening in the other slaughterhouses, but yeah, there were some things that were just I mean, I'm happy to share them, but it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
Wow. So have you got a favorite? I mean, let me rephrase that. So usually we ask this, and it's like a local venue, local restaurant, but you've kind of been in a lot of places all over the place. So what's your favorite vegan restaurant or venue or location or whatever?
We'll take a top 5 or something if you.
Okay, I'll throw a few at you. Yes, it's. I'll just throw a few at you that are my favorites. Okay, so I have to give a shout out to my friends and the amazing hotels that we visit on our Italy trips. La Vimia in northern Italy. They are an all-vegan hotel that we spend 3 nights on our northern Italy trip, and Luca, the chef there, is incredible. So you basically have like a 5-course amazing dining experience there, and their breakfast buffet is incredible. I invite you to go and have a look on their social media and just have a little bit of a look. And the location is really, really fun because you're sort of in the Dolomites a bit. So there's real great opportunity to, you know, go into the Dolomites, the mountains, and enjoy the wonders that that part of the world has to offer. And interestingly, Valeria, who owns La Vimia, her daughter and son-in-law also own the completely vegan Agrovili I Pini, which is in Tuscany. And that is another 100% vegan hotel. It's more like a villa, and their food is amazing. So it's like Tuscan versions of vegan food. So they're incredible. Here in Vancouver, gosh, so many amazing ones. I think I just interviewed Jason Anthony, the owner of this chain of restaurants. They're called Meat on Main Street, Meat in Gastown, Meat in Yaletown. There's one on Vancouver Island, and these places are just kind of like casual dining, amazing vegan. Obviously, it's all vegan. It's 100% vegan, and they have incredible burgers. They have a different special every week, and the food is just amazing. They've got some healthy options too for those that want to do that. They have happy hour, and it's just an amazing restaurant. Gosh, let me think of another one. Bangkok is a food scene that I know pretty well. Bistro comes to mind because at the moment I'm just working with them to create like a one night in Bangkok for our themed night for our travelers. Bistro is a wonderful restaurant in Bangkok. It's a little bit nicer, and what can I say about that? It kind of has lots of like yum cha and sort of sharing plates. They have these amazing Tokyo tacos and this amazing mu ping, which is the equivalent to minced to pork that would be, so it's like a vegan substitute, and that's very common street food where it's like grilled, and it's usually served with sticky rice and somtam, which is a papaya salad, and they have a vegan version there. And lastly, I would love to recommend Potager du Marais, which is a vegan restaurant in Paris. There are lots and lots of vegan restaurants in Paris now, which is a far cry from 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But one thing that I think makes this restaurant particularly special and interesting, even though it's been around for many years now, is the fact that they have vegan versions of French dishes. And honestly, there are not many vegan restaurants in France that are making vegan versions. So you can have like Boeuf Bourguignon, obviously it's made with seitan. You can have French onion soup. You can have creme brulee, goat's cheese salad, and all of that. So I always like to recommend people go and check that out. Is that enough for you?
That's awesome. Yeah, good grief.
Yeah, I'm starving. I'm only just having dinner.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. That's really good. That's going to be a lot of looking at Instagram accounts full of food. So yeah, that's it's going to make us hungry doing that. Excellent. Thank you so much. Now, our final question, unbelievably, because that's flown by, but one of the things that we and a lot of our guests have felt is the feeling of Vistopia, the anguish of being vegan in a non-vegan world. And I was wondering, what's your take on it? Do you have any hope for the future?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Claire Mann's work. She coined that term Vistopia, and certainly when I was doing all of that pretty full-on stuff in Thailand, I definitely suffered from that a lot. And since I've taken a bit of a step back from doing that kind of work, you know, it's tricky because I'm not exposed to those kinds of things all of the time, but for the sake of my mental health and the other stresses that I had going on in my life, it was during the pandemic, you know, it was necessary for me to sort of take a step back from all of that. In terms of hope, I do have hope. It sort of fluctuates from time to time. Honestly, I do think we're going to get there in the end. I feel very confident of that. But you know, the time frame that I feel does fluctuate from time to time. I do have a lot of hope. I'm really excited about like the clean meat, the cell-based meat, that kind of thing. I know it can be a bit of a controversial topic, but I do think that is exciting. I think we need to get like vegan alternatives a bit cheaper. There's been a lot of talk recently about how Beyond Meat, for example, has having to lay off staff because they're not selling as much. And I think one of the reasons for that is the price is still a little bit too high, even though it's come down. And I know it just takes time. We're all impatient. We want to reach the end goal quickly. But yeah, I don't know if that is very optimistic, but I do have hope. But it's going to take time, and it's taking a long time, of course.
Yes, yeah, it's very frustrating. Everything's stacked against us, though, isn't it? You know, you said about Beyond Meat being more expensive, but that's because they don't get any tax money, do they, to produce what they produce?
Yeah,
you know, it's not a level playing field, so it's it is really frustrating.
Yeah,
but there we go. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brighde. That's been fantastic, really interesting, and hopefully some of our listeners will be joining you on future trips.
Sure. Well, it was an absolute pleasure getting to know you both and talking with you. Yeah, I can't wait to have you on my podcast.
How good would it be to travel the world and see more vegans? That's amazing.
How good would it be to speak to our vegan listener in Vanuatu and see what
is
going on out there?
Oh no, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Our listener in Vanuatu, if you want to come on as a guest, that'd be incredible. I'm not sure what the time difference is, but
we'll make it work. I'd love to speak to someone in somewhere like that, and and find out what life is like there, like vegan life is like there.
Yeah,
it'd be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, life in general and life as a vegan.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so actually, anyone from anywhere, we want to know what your life is like.
As that is literally the point of the podcast. So
that's the whole point of the pod. Tell us what your life is like as a vegan.
Yeah,
please.
But no, that was a really good episode, and it made me. It's something opened my eyes a little bit. Something I didn't realise, that Thai chickens are exported to the UK. Who'd have thought it?
That can't be a
I
happy
assume
journey,
they're the
can
ones with the red tractor best of British label on, yeah?
it? Yes. Yeah, because I tell you one thing, that if it's produced from one thing into another, so if they take the carcass and they produce it into a burger, they're allowed to put produced in the UK.
Yeah.
Because the final bit of it has been produced in the UK. So you might think, I don't know why. I don't know if this is pandering to nationalists. This is the UKIP effect or something. But people would only buy British produce. They might be buying it out because they're so incredibly racist that they couldn't bear the thought of eating something from another country. And yeah, that's absolute bollocks. So
yeah,
so serves them right. So
and also it shows how hoodwinked everybody is about the
yes.
process of what they're eating. And yeah, we are probably equally as hoodwinked in what we eat in some circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't kill animals.
Eat dead things.
So
That's it.
No.
So yeah,
I read
suck it.
an interesting thing today on Plant-Based News. Plant-Based News did a post today. I think it was today. I saw it on Instagram. I assume it would be today. But it was about avocados, the argument over avocados. And it's around the same principle that of the thing, like when carnists say that by eating plants, we're killing more animals because of the pests and stuff. Pests in inverted commas. But the fact is that most bees are transported to the areas where they grow avocados to still pollinate other plants that everybody eats, not just avocados.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, that's good.
No, that's what I thought. That's why I'm bringing it up, because yes, they are transporting bees, and yes, that is ethically wrong. But
it's not just
avocados. No, it's not just avocados. It's for plant production as a whole. But if you come back to the vegan ethos of you do as much as practicably possible, then you're doing everything you can, but you're also not eating dead things.
No, that's it. At the end of the day, it's not perfect, but we don't eat dead things.
No. So it's that same argument about plane travel. You know, the amount it costs to go on a plane is like such a tiny percentage to what the carbon footprint of eating a burger is. It's like it's just crazy. But there we go. We can only do what we can do. We can only plant the vegan seeds where we can.
Exactly. We're doing our best.
Yes. And that's yeah, that was a fun episode. I enjoyed that. That was good.
Absolutely. Good one. A good one. So look out for Brighde's travel agency, and
if you can afford extremely expensive travel. I mean, but if you can, go for it. But
but
I won't be, because I'm not in that boat.
I did look at some of the prices, and it is expensive, but it's not like more expensive than the same sort of thing that you would get elsewhere. Do you know what I mean? It's not you're not paying a premium over and above what you would get on a similar trip that wasn't vegan. It's just they're expensive trips.
They're expensive anyway.
Whatever you do, So it's not expensive because it's vegan. It's expensive. It's correctly priced for what you get. So check it out. Check it out.
Definitely.
Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. Hope you've enjoyed that. Found it interesting, and we will. What will we do? We'll speak to you next time, probably.
We will. If you want to get in touch with us, find us on all our social medias. Send us a message. Tell us how great we are. Don't tell us how crap we are, because we already know that.
We already know that, yeah.
If you want to come on, tell us. Say I want to come on, because I want to talk to you guys, because you're great.